Hello, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Career Conversations. I'm your host, Unica Walcott, and on this show, I feature people who are doing incredible things, who are willing to share the network and to educate people about the ways that they can take their own journey and find the right path for them. Jeez. I don't even think I'm gonna delete it. I'm gonna just laugh with y'all. Like, this is what's happening. So today's guest is Jevon Wooden. He is a veteran, he's an author, he's a business coach, and he's on the show to talk about his career journey. He's got some really exciting things happening currently. But I want you guys to kind of get a feel for not just what he's doing, but like how he got here. So we're going to talk about what he wanted to be when he grew up. We're going to talk about, maybe some of the biggest challenges he's ever faced professionally and how he navigated those things. So jumping right into the conversation, Jevon, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Unica. Jumping right in. Let's go. I've been excited to do this. So
Yes.
let's get into it.
Yeah, and it just feels good to be back in the flow. I took a break, and so I'm happy to be back and to be coming back with heavy hitters like yourself.
Thank you.
So thank you for saying yes to my invitation to the show. I really appreciate your willingness to share parts of your journey with people. That's not easy to be vulnerable.
Absolutely. Vulnerability is strength. So I appreciate the invitation. And I know you're doing some fantastic things. I've seen you on LinkedIn. Congratulations. So we're just going to keep elevating and bring everyone with us. So let's go.
That's what's up. So I'm going to start with, when you tell your family that you were an author and a business coach, what do people think that means? Like, what do they think you do?
That's a great question. Well, author, people know what that is, but when I say business coach, the term coach is so ambiguous these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So coaching traditionally is not like you see in sports where the coach is telling the players what to do. Coaching is actually about asking powerful questions. So nowadays I let people know, like, I'm a coach consultant, right? I have the side where I let you just guide you with questions and let you know what to do. And then I have the strategy where I'm just going to be like, hey, you need to do this. This is what you're going to do, right? So I don't think my family or friends understand that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even potential clients, I have to explain the difference.
Well, that's good that you explain the difference for people, because I can imagine, like you said, there being some confusion around what it looks like to be a coach and consultant for people. It sounds like a lot of your job is listening.
Absolutely. That is most of the job. And it's really, to actively listen, it takes a lot of energy, right? So people ask me, like, how do I recharge and refresh? So it's really a industry where, because you're empathetic, because you're always listening, you have to really be focused on, recharging yourself as well.
So, what are some of the things that you do to recharge yourself?
Oh, spend time in nature is one of them. Spend time where I disconnect from tech is another thing. Every day I at least do 30 minutes where I just don't touch any tech, whether I'm reading a book or whatever the case may be, working out. And then just making sure I'm paying attention to myself, right? Checking in, spending time with family and friends, with my dog, just doing things that I love that don't concern with using my brain all the time.
I think that people take that for granted. Like that quiet time. I think there's like a whole Reddit thread called shower thoughts. And I feel like it's kind of that magic of the pause where you're like not actively engaged in solving a problem or fixing something, that like the solutions come to you. You don't have to chase them.
Right. Exactly. People don't realize, like, the rest is just as important as the work, because if you look back at all of the people that we say are like, hey, they've made it, they've hit a certain status, a certain echelon that many of us don't. The Steve Jobs of the world, the Michelangelos, the Leonardo da Vinci's, the you name them. They all had a period where they would rest, where they would take a walk, disconnect, whatever the case may be. Steve Jobs was actually famous for taking walks, taking meetings while walking, just because it was a way for him to take a break in place. So I encourage everyone to not just go hard all the time, every day, all day. I did it. It doesn't work. Take a break before you burn yourself out.
And burnout is something we don't talk enough about. Like, in the recovery is far longer than you think.
yeah, exactly.
You gave me the knowing laugh.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, yeah, when you hit that, it's so hard to get out of the abyss, right? It's so hard to get yourself back in a flow. And before you know it, you're there. You don't even know what's happening. So I just encourage people, like, just be proactive with your health.
Was your health and well? I had a thought earlier today, and I was like thinking about we talk about wellness, and I was like, for me, we think about wells as places where water is held. I was like, things flow
Mm.
to you when you actually are in a space of actually being well. This is kind of
Oh,
how I see it.
that's a bar right there. I
Well, I'm
like
not a
that.
rapper, but maybe I'll write some poems.
Yeah, that's a good one. Things flow. It's like a well. Things flow to you when you are well. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. Because I mean, if you think about when you feel good, right, you usually think more positively. Your actions, you have more clarity on decision making. Right, everything just works a lot better when you're in that place. And I always look at it like a vehicle, right? When you
Hmm.
get that check engine light, right? As long as you take care of whatever that check engine light came on for, it's just an alert, just letting
Right.
you know that hey, some maintenance is need, some work needs to be done, whatever. But if you prolong it and move past it, then everything jacks
Right.
up, right? And that's how
Right.
your body is. As humans, we're the same way,
Right.
right?
You
And
go
we're like,
from
oh
needing
man,
a gas or oil change to like you need a whole
right.
transmission.
Right, exactly. Your whole car is done, right? So we the same way. It's like you have to look at that check engine light. If you're feeling a little tired, consistently, if you just can't focus, whatever the case may be, just pay attention to you and understand like what's your norm. And then just figure it out. Like go to the doctor, go get your checkups, go listen to your body, take those days off. Like you don't get brownie points for never missing a day at work. I'm just, we hear
You
these stories like
don't.
you don't. They don't care. It's like they don't care if you do it or not. It's like that's why you get that time. So if you work, if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. Take some time off. Seriously.
Yeah, no. I'm in my head like, is there a way for me? Like, how much PTO do I have left at the end of the year? Like, borrowed a goal from a friend. I think Lindsay actually, who said her and her husband every year take all their PTO. Like, that's a personal goal. I was like, I'm borrowing that. That's a great goal to have. Take it all. Like,
Right.
don't leave it.
Yeah. I mean, what are you getting out of
For.
leaving it? Unless you plan on like saving it all up and then you like, I'm gonna leave this job, so I just want them to pay me out. Cool. But if
I
you
mean,
know
that or you're
that,
saving it up because maybe next year you got a big international trip and you're going to
right,
go backpacking for a month in Europe. Like,
right. Hey, that's great
otherwise,
too.
I mean, but most of us are just, burning both ends of the candle and then go, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, so unappreciated. I've had to
Right.
learn that the more I treat myself well and appreciate myself, the better people are to me around me because I've set the expectation. And I don't think
Yeah.
we talk
Right.
about that enough in our professional careers. As an entrepreneur, how are you preparing your clients for things like days off?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a big proponent of like time management. So one of the things I always encourage all of my clients to do is use the calendar. Put your self care time on there too. Like block out that time and use that as an immovable object. Going back to corporate, when you think about that meeting you can't miss, it doesn't matter. Hell or high water, you're there, right? And that's how
Mhm.
you have to treat your wellness. You got to be there, like, and be present. Don't be thinking about what you have to do. Like really focus on just doing nothing if that's what you want to do, or being taking that dinner, whatever it is that self-care is to you. Like make
Yeah.
sure you're actually doing it and don't interrupt it. Like just you got to take that time and use your calendar, plan your days, make sure you're setting precedents for how you want people to treat you and how you're going to treat yourself, right?
Of course.
That's going to be very important to you. So I just encourage people to like look at their values, what's really important to you. And if you know what's important to you, now you're going to set that level set with everyone. Because if it doesn't align with you, someone tells you, hey, you need to do this. You're going to say, hey, that's not me, right? I'm not doing
Like,
that.
wrong
And
person.
wrong person, right? And if your boss tells you to do something that doesn't align with what you feel is your value or your job, then you won't do that either. I always tell people, they be like, oh, I can't take time off because my job is so demanding. I'm like, well, you probably set that precedence. You probably said, hey, I'll be available all day, all night. And
I
that's
mean,
where people get into trouble. And I understand that, there are jobs that are very demanding, but also you have to understand that you can't work that job and you can't do anything else if you're in the grave. So you need to take care of yourself.
right, that or having a mental breakdown. Never mind the
Yeah.
grave. Like I feel like sometimes we like equate like the difference in wellness and being dead or alive. But I think the
Hmm.
point you're saying is like, I mean, kind of aligns with your brain to live not loathe. Like a lot of us are working ourselves into this place of not feeling mentally well, even,
Right.
and
Right.
that's not
And
healthy.
absolutely. And the grave is figurative. Like when I say that, I'm just saying like you're not yourself, right?
Mhm.
You're not yourself if you're not at your best. Like we've all felt it. You don't sleep well for a few days and you just feel like a zombie. You just feel like nothing. You don't like doing anything, right? Because you're tired or you're just not in that space. And we all know that being burned out, it morphs you. It morphs
Mhm.
you into someone different. You can't even recognize yourself. If you look back at a time you're burned out, you're like, what was I doing? Like everything was a fog. I didn't like anything. I felt super stressed out. My family that I love was pissing me off, so
You're
that's
like
that's what you
the
get,
dog you
right?
used to love in the door. You like you don't go somewhere. Like
Right. You're like, I gotta walk you. What? No, I ain't got time for that. So it's just like
so yeah, no, that makes sense, and I love that you explained that the grave is figurative,
right.
because yeah, there are many ways you can die without physically dying.
Absolutely.
Live not loathe. Can you talk to me a little bit more about what that means and how you came up with the name?
Absolutely. So, loathing is a space that many of us have been in where we just do not enjoy life. It could be you just don't like yourself, right? Loathing is past dislike, right? It's almost hate, right? It's
Mhm.
abhorring. It's feeling like this just can't be it. And when I talk about loathing, I'm talking about the same day, your circumstances, your life, who you are, your business, whatever it is, you just do not like it. But a lot of us get stuck and we think that that's permanent. So the live part comes into play when you realize you have agency. You have some control over things. And one of the things you can control is your effort. And the other thing is your outlook, right? So living is really about taking back that power and saying, listen, this is temporary. And it's temporary because I can control some things. I can put in another level of effort. I can focus. I can make those sacrifices that need to be made. And I can do what I need to do, and invest the resources and the time and everything into what life I really want, the life you don't need a vacation from, which is what I always say. So that's just representing that transformation.
Nice. The life you do not need a vacation from. What are some key elements in the life that you don't need a vacation from?
So a life that someone doesn't need a vacation from is based on them. Again, it aligns with your values. So my life that I don't need a vacation from is being able to work from wherever I want, right? Being able to wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to do this, and that's what's going to happen, right? I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to this networking event, meet these people, right? Work, less than 40 hours a week, whatever the case may be. But it really depends on that person, because some people, they're not working, right? They
Mhm.
love what they do. Maybe they love giving charity. So we have to define that for ourselves, but it all starts here. And that's why I say that. People are like, I need a vacation and I have a great life. Like, it's not a physical thing, it's really mental. It's about not being stressed. It's about really having great time management. It's about setting the precedence. It's about wellness, taking care of yourself. It's about looking at the mind, body, and spirit and saying that I'm aligned. All these things.
So, what did you want to be when you grew up, or want to do?
Well, yeah. So as I was growing up, that's a great question, because I really didn't have a picture of what I wanted to do. But if I look back, I would probably say I like to question people. So maybe so maybe like maybe I should have been a lawyer, right? Because I love to question people and like find fault and be like, see, I knew it, let them
See,
prove
I
that
knew
they
it.
yeah. So, but I would have probably been like a defense attorney, because I didn't want to put anyone. I knew what the prison system did out to our community, so I would have been trying to protect people.
Not a bad role or idea to protect people. Sounds like in some ways you protect people for themselves now.
Yeah, I guess it came full circle, right? I found another way to protect people and help others.
That makes excellent sense. So, for someone wanting to be an author or a business coach, like what skills and qualities will they need to have to be successful?
So I would say I will start with the author first. As an author, a lot of people are deterred because they say I'm not a good writer. First, you got to shift that, right? Because one, you can actually voice type your book, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be a good writer. Maybe you're just a good speaker, and you can find an editor You can find, someone to edit it for you. So you just talking it and they fix it all up and format and all that stuff. So these days, I mean, it doesn't take much. You can literally just go on Fiverr or something like that, write your book, and then have someone fix it up for you, self-publish, right? Go to Amazon KDP or Lulu and self-publish. There's so many things you can do if you really want to be an author. So I wouldn't let anything deter you. For a coach, some of the skills that you require are actively listening. You shouldn't be a judgmental person, right? Because you have to be able to be empathetic, and you have to be able to let go and realize the agenda isn't yours. You have to be patient because you're going to listen to some people, and some people, like, to understand where they just went, you have to really find keys and let them flow, because some people just figure it out in place. You have to be confident, because there's a lot of times where you're coaching people who are probably you consider them in a much better place than you, as far as like financially and all that stuff. So you have to be confident that you don't have to know everything. They're the expert and you're helping them figure some things out. They came to you for a reason. And you have to be curious. You have to lead with curiosity, because that's really the main thing as a coach. You have to act as if you know nothing when you come into a lot of these situations as a coach, so you can ask those powerful questions and move the needle forward. Yeah, and that's probably the main skills, but the main skill is actively listening.
So active listening, empathy,
Active.
asking
Yep.
good questions, being very curious. Okay, I mean,
Yes.
these sound like skills you can develop pretty intentionally if you don't have some of them naturally. What are some things you
Yes.
do to develop yourself professionally?
So I invest in myself heavily. I believe, like, if I want to serve, if I want to be one of the best coaches, consultants, just um, minds in general, then I have to be willing to invest in myself, and I can't ask a client to invest in me if I'm not investing in myself, right? So that's one of the things I do. I read a lot. I believe that that's one of the greatest things you can do if you're looking to better yourself, is reading. And really just being engaged. Like, I do a lot of peer coaching, practice coaching, coaching, like pro bono coaching. So it just makes me better where I get some practice in.
So you're like, let's build the muscle as well as the knowledge. So the,
Right.
the actual practice of what you do, but also the knowledge. You said you read a lot. Do you have maybe your favorite three books?
Favorite three books, any genre?
Any.
Any genre.
Because
Okay.
I feel like you can
So
learn even from fiction. Like people take that for granted.
say that again.
I feel like you can learn from fiction in a wide variety of books.
Absolutely.
People don't think that way,
Absolutely.
though. They're like, well, if you're not reading a business book, then you're not really. No.
Yeah.
Sometimes the magic is in the imagination.
For sure. I'll see if I can get one from a couple of different genres. So one, no order. So fiction, Children of Blood and Bone was one of my favorites. I
Hmm.
love that book. The autobiography of Malcolm X is one of my favorites. And then a business book, I would say Building a Story Brand is one of my favorites.
Building a story brand.
Yeah, that's Donald Miller. So yeah,
Okay,
so those are some of the favorites I have.
you got some good options.
Absolutely. Well, what's yours? I want to know some of yours now.
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm a terrible reader when it comes to finishing books. I do not finish things I don't enjoy. Well, I'm just being very honest, like because it's just like life is too short to read bad books, so I don't. But I
Right. Life is too short. That should be a t-shirt.
so I will buy a lot of books. In fact, sometimes I'll buy like 4 or 5 of them at a time, or I'll see something on
Mm.
Amazon. Like Row House Publishing has a lot of really good books. Circling back to a book by an author, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but the book is called It's called The Anti-Racist Business Book. So I'm
Mm.
enjoying that so far. That's been pretty good. Another book I enjoyed. I'm going to actually plug two authors I interviewed. Melanie Ho's book is really really good, and let me see.
You said Melanie Ho?
Melanie Ho, yes. The book is called Beyond Leaning In.
Huh.
Yeah,
Beyond
exactly.
Leaning
It
In.
is so good. And then there's the audiobook version of it too. And so I feel like that brings the characters to life in such another like nuanced level.
Mm.
So those are like probably my two faves of like recent reading for business books. The other book, kind of a more wellness vibe, The Body is Not an Apology. It's a really
Yeah,
good
look
book
that
because
one
I
up
think that
too.
it invites people to look at themselves in a different way. A lot of times we have all these, phobias and shames about our bodies and these internal dialogues that just make zero sense. And
Mhm.
I think that she finds the balance in helping people to have like positive self-image without being like you off the hook to not take care of yourself. And I think that's the conversation in the zeitgeist right now. People going, okay, well, ma'am, if your body goals, like what am I is like just kind of back and forth. You hear a lot of banter around like Lizzo and her whole, viewpoint, other people's viewpoint. I feel like the body is not an apology is the conversation we all need to be having about how we
Mm.
view ourselves. I really like I love the book so much. I bought a copy for my mother and my sister and sent it to them like after I finished it.
Nice. I gotta check that one out. Yeah, that might be another one I gift.
Yeah, so I really like the book, and it's because it just challenged some viewpoints and things that I didn't even think about. I was like, okay, like even just like the way we like look at animals or things in the hierarchy we develop around stuff. So it was really good book.
Okay.
Um, that's not so businessy, but I think if you got a body, you should read it.
So anyone should read that. That's a good way to put it. If you got a body, you
Mhm.
should read
Yeah.
it. That's marketing right there.
Well, I am a marketer, so guilty as
Right.
charged. Um, oh my God, is there something in my teeth, y'all? Y'all, nobody told me. Excuse me. For one
Wait,
second. This is the realness.
what happened?
I think I have food in my teeth. It's salad from lunch. All right, I'm back. Sorry.
No, you're good. I didn't
I
even
was
see
like,
it. So
I was like, there's something. I was like, oh, yeah, that was a piece of lettuce. It was not nail polish. Also green.
I know. I noticed the nails.
Okay, so we talked about some of my favorite books. We talked about Malcolm X's autobiography, Children of Blood and Bone. I thought it was really cool. I'm pretty sure that's one that I got from my niece a few years ago because I thought it was really cool.
Hmm.
And so we talked about books and how you develop yourself. We talked about the fact that you thought that you might go and be a defense attorney when you grew up and you found a different way to protect people. What is something you wish you knew before becoming a business coach and author?
What is something I wish I knew before becoming a business coach and author that I could
Mhm.
do it?
You wish you
that
knew that you could do
I
it.
wish I knew that I could do it, right? Because before then I had so many limiting beliefs, like years ago, right? I could have
Mhm.
been doing this stuff, but we place so many limitations on ourselves, and we say, "Oh, we need to get to this level before we do this," and it just wasn't the case because I had the information, the knowledge, but I just didn't have the belief. So that's what I wish I would have known.
You wish you'd known you could do it. What
Hmm.
helped you overcome those limiting beliefs?
Well, one, getting help. When I came back from my last deployment to Afghanistan in 2017, just going through like a severe depression, there was really a silver lining in it because it gave me the license to say, you know what, I need help. In doing that, I found solace in that, and I found power in that. That's why I said vulnerability is strength earlier, because I don't know if I would have come back and done any of this if I hadn't gone through that. To be able to say, you know what, I don't need to be Superman. Superman is actually sharing my story and being transparent and being vulnerable, and telling my family that I'm not okay. And that's really what caused and opened me up to this whole world.
What gave you the courage to tell your family you weren't okay?
What gave me the courage was just I knew that if I did not let someone know, that I may not have stayed on this earth, right? And that
Mm.
was just my last ditch effort to say, you know what, this is the time where I need someone, right? It's not I need it because I used to hold it all in and just, hey, I'm a black man in America. We got to be strong, right? We can't be crying. We, suck it up. That's what we always heard. But I realized the opposite, that the opposite was actually true. And when I finally I remember I called my older sister, named Chandra, and that conversation just freed me. It allowed me to be like, you know what? She said two words, get help. I was like, yeah, you're right. Why the hell didn't I go get help before? Why am I, because I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And it was
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, there are therapists. I had never gone to therapy or any of that, right? It's just like military, black, those are two things that you just be like, suck it up, right? That's the way to just go forward. But you don't know that about self-care and all this other stuff. You just, even in the soldier's creed as an army guy, it says, I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. Right. So when you hear that, it's like brings on me to just keep going and forget what's going on with you. Like, can you walk? Are you
Yeah, keep
alive? Keep
going.
going. Right. Yeah. Even if you can't walk, can you crawl? Can you move? All right, keep going, and that's it.
So do you still hold on to those beliefs and kind of mantras, or what does that look like in life
Mhm.
now?
Oh, absolutely. I'm all about keeping it real and checking in with myself and just saying, hey, you're not your best self right now. You might need to. We talked about taking that time. You might need to just take a break. I know you got a lot of stuff to do right now, but you may need to give yourself just a little grace period before you get it going. And even in the morning, like I'll wake up, and before I actually get up, I'll say a quick prayer and I thank God, but I also thank myself for continuing to do what I need to do, just practicing that gratitude muscle. Because I feel like as people, we don't like to talk about ourselves. We're, there's a certain point of humility and being humble that is detrimental to you. If you can't recognize what you've done, that's hurting you. So I'm a firm believer in practicing gratitude to yourself. That's why when Snoop years ago said, hey, I like to thank myself, I felt that.
Yeah, Issa Rae said similar things, and people look in and go, I like to thank myself. I mean, but we thank everybody for the littlest things. We don't ever acknowledge ourselves in our effort or just to keep going when things are maybe not comfortable or easy. That's an excellent point. I have a
Right.
girlfriend who all the time says, I wish you could see yourself. And I'll be like, what do you mean, woman? What do you mean?
That's what
So
it means. Yeah, because we so humble. We like, oh yeah, that was nothing. Oh yeah, you were the first to fly a plane. That's like the Wright brothers.
yeah,
Like if you did something like that, and you're like, yeah, nah, yeah, that was nothing. Thanks to this person, but really you did all that work, right? You flew that plane, you got it going. So we just need to be willing to just sometimes accept compliments. One, I don't know why that's so hard for people. You got to be like, oh yeah, thanks, you too. Like you didn't even do nothing.
literally did that yesterday. I did. So you were telling on us for real because of one of my coworkers said, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful." I said, "Thanks, you too." Like awkward.
Right. It's like just accept it, just accept it and also make sure you're bigging yourself up. Like we should be our own biggest cheerleader. So
Yeah.
it's like when you do, and I had to learn it the hard way, which is why I'm saying it, because I was the type of person like you do something and it's like, oh, you just like keep going. It's like, oh, that was nothing. That was nothing. You never take time to celebrate yourself. Like it's no way to live. Like take some time, just celebrate it. No matter how small you think it is, it's probably big because that's how we are. We downplay our accomplishments, but our people is we like, yo, shout out to you. Let me do this. Oh, that was so big. So take that energy and put it towards yourself.
What are some ways you put the energy towards yourself?
Man, I'm the type person like I'll take a nice trip, right? Because I love travel. I will give myself some time off, and I will eat a good meal, right? I
Yeah.
love like bourbon and stuff like that, so I'll celebrate with a nice bourbon, a cigar. I just do, whatever comes to mind. Like I'll just be like, you know what, I did this. This was a great week. Whatever, I closed another deal, whatever the case may be. I acknowledge that because I used to never acknowledge it. I used to not celebrate my birthdays, nothing, because I
You
was
don't
just like,
celebrate your
hey,
birthdays?
I just recently started,
Oh
and
my
it all
God.
came from this. But it was because I was in that space, like, hey, I gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, and that's why I was talking about burnout because I hit that wall. I was like, I can't go anymore. I'm tired, and I just don't have any energy. Right, my propulsion system was done, so I couldn't
He
launch.
said, no,
Right,
I don't got nothing else to give.
I
Now
had nothing in the tank. So that's why I just feel like all of this stuff that we're talking about, if you take it from a holistic perspective, it's all needed because it helps you to maintain one, it helps you to stay energized and stay vibrant and keep the zest for life, because if once you lose that, it's really really hard to get it back. It's hard to be like, yeah, you can't just snap back and be like, yeah, I'm good. No, it's not gonna work like that.
it doesn't.
It really doesn't.
It literally does not. You
Like you
have
can
to.
lie to yourself when you want to. I've tried it. And I've said, yeah, I'm cool. And I'm not,
You might be
And that's
cool for
how I
about a
ended
week,
up.
maybe two even. Then
Yeah,
you get set
yeah.
down somewhere again.
Right. And that's how it works. It's like it's only so much like, you can tell yourself that. And psychologically, they say, hey, fake it till you make it. That works to an extent until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't. I think that it's an effective temporary stopgag if you're
Hmm.
really in a place of like being unwilling to try something
Right.
new. But like you said, it's not something you want to go. I'm gonna fake it till I make it for the next 12 to 24 months. Probably not a good idea. You should
Probably
like find
not a good
a coach,
idea.
some support, something, or just
Absolutely.
raise your hand and go, "Hey, I don't know."
I don't know what to do, right? And that's okay to say that too. Like, that's the beauty of the human element is that we don't have to figure it out by ourselves. It's a collective. We are social beings. And but the problem is many of us are programmed to not be social in that aspect. We're programmed to just do it by ourselves. And
I
that's
mean,
just the wrong answer.
I feel like the cultural messaging has been so damaging around that. You've got people, independent women, rugged individualism, all
Self-made.
self-made,
Yeah.
all, and it's like literally think about most of what you do. Nothing really happens by itself. Like, yes, you should celebrate
Mhm.
yourself and your accomplishments and making moves, but by the same token, like something as simple as the pen that you picked up to write the book didn't happen without somebody else.
Absolutely. It was a team, it's a collective, right? So and that's another thing about my clients. You talk about like getting them so they don't burn themselves out, so they have time management. I got a 3DA formula. So delegate, delete, delay, automate. And
Mm,
that's how I live life. Like if I can delegate it to someone, or if I can delay it because I don't need to do it right now, or just don't do it, or find a way to automate the process, that's going to save me so much time and it frees me up for things I really need to and want to do.
3D. Okay.
Yep, 3DA.
Don't do. How do you decide what not to do?
So you decide what, because one, I mean, if it's in life, does it align with your values and is it a priority, right? That's what you're gonna ask yourself, right? Does it feed in? If you know your greater goal, if you say, hey, in 3 years, I don't want to be working, right? I want to have my business in this certain place. All right. So everything you do needs to align with that. So if there's a party and you have a deadline to get your course done, maybe you shouldn't be going to that party, right? Maybe you should be getting that course done. So like just things like that. It's really simple to say, but it's hard to do because we want to do certain things, right? We're like, I don't feel like doing this. Well, the sacrifices that needs to be made, the things that need to be sacrificed in the grand scheme, a lot of those things you're not even going to remember that you sacrifice. So sometimes you just have to look at it like that. Like what do I want my life to look like? Am I willing to delay or delete those things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things right now? And then when you do have two competing priorities, right, that legit priorities, you have to look at which one may move the needle forward a little quicker. Or can I delay and get or delegate and automate one of them and still get both done? So that's how I go in my mind.
You're an and kind of person, not an or.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's pretty cool. Um, if you could talk to your 8-year-old self, what would you tell 8-year-old Jevon?
8-year-old Jevon, I would tell 8-year-old Jevon that where you are now is not going to be who you are later, because you got to build your confidence, understand that you are capable of so much more than you think. Because at my 8-year-old self, I was still angry, I was hurt, and there was a lot there, and it was at that age it's really of no fault of my own. So everything anyone told you, I would tell them like, push that out your mind because you're going to be destined for greatness.
It's a great note to yourself. We've talked about books. We've talked childhood self. We've talked about feelings and the right to have feelings, which I think is a very powerful message. I don't think enough people are given permission or even the idea that they have a right to that sort of expression.
Mhm.
Um, Powerful. I'm gonna pause a moment.
Okay.
So I don't want to force my next question. I'm just gonna pause just a second.
No problem. No problem. We here.
What is the thing you're most proud of about your life so far?
The thing I'm most proud of about my life so far really is putting my family in a position where we don't have to start over from less than zero. You know, and that's really what I live for, because I know what it feels like to be at a deficit and just not believe that anything is possible other than living and then dying, right? And really not living at all. So that's the thing I would be most proud of. You know, building a position, being able to direct my nieces and nephews and show them like, hey, we are more than capable in this family.
Sounds like you got a nice source of motivation. Like family is super important to me as well. So I get it. Like it's like why you get out of bed in the morning and do all this extra stuff.
Hmm.
You like by yourself, you're fine. You're like, but me being okay is not enough.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like so many in the black community are going for that. Uh, but it's like when you actually think about what it takes, it's, it can be daunting sometimes. But then when you realize why you are willing to do whatever it takes, that's really the drive. And that's what motivates me when I wake up and I'm like, man, I am, I'll take my break. Like I said, I'll take my break and realize it's a long game, because really what we're doing when you think about generational wealth, so to speak, it's about legacy. It's about longevity. It's not really meant to do in a short period. It's meant to like lay the groundwork, lay the foundation, and then the next generation comes and like builds on that, right? So that's really what I'm doing, is like educating, my nieces, my nephews, and my
That part.
sisters, and all that stuff, right? So they have the tools, and I'm not keeping it and doing it in a vacuum. So now, as they get older, they're working on theirs, and we collectively come together, right, and buy those properties and invest in whatever, and build these businesses.
Legacy. So when you talk about building legacy, what is it that you would hope to be remembered for?
Well, what I hope to be remembered for is really empowering others to tap in to untapped potential, right? To design that life they don't need vacation from on their terms. To say, you know what, I won't have any regrets because I left it all on the table, right? I did exactly what I wanted to do in life, and if I didn't do it, I attempted to do it, and that's what I want. I want to impact millions with that message.
I think that's the magic too, the audacity to attempt. A lot
Exactly.
of us don't have that.
Exactly. That's why I loved Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, right? It's like
Hmm.
that's what it's really all about, right? Daring greatly, just attempting, and even if you fail, like not giving up on yourself just because it didn't go the way you wanted. Because we have to realize that success is insulated by failure, right? You
Mm.
can't achieve that success if you never go through that failure, and even if you do, you won't keep it. That's
You
just how it
said
works.
go through or grow through the failure. I want to make sure I understood you.
Say that again.
You said, did you say go through or grow through the
I like
failure?
what you said. I said go through, but grow through is even better. Because like that failure is like that's their synonymous. Like it's like failure is attached to success, right? And it's like
Mhm.
when you think about that, like so many people who are great, they failed so many times, but they were learning as they failed. They didn't look at it as a bad thing, and that's how many of us have to look. Like we're taught all our lives through school that failing is a bad thing. It's like if you don't get that A or that B or that C, you're like, yo, you just not smart.
Right? You're
you
not
know,
worthy.
you're
What
not
are you
worthy,
doing? Like,
right? The cool kids, but it's also the opposite too. It's also if you are very talented intellectually when it comes to school, right? If you have that A, you also don't get as much attention as that kid who didn't. So it's really a flawed system in both ways, in both instances.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's really flawed. But so we have to look, we kind of have to reprogram ourselves as we become adults to say, okay, I excel in this, but I'm also willing to get help. right, from other people, which school does not teach you, right? At least not American
No,
schools.
everything is very okay. You take the test, you pass, you fail. I mean, a lot of times, even with group projects, there's usually only one or two people that do it, and the other four people
Do
just
it.
show up.
Right, right. They're like, oh, did you do it? Did y'all do it? What y'all need? Y'all go, oh, I'm out. All right, cool, cool.
I got
You
an
know,
orange crayon. Y'all need to use this real. Like
right.
that's what this from you. Like,
Yeah. So it's that for me. It's like, we as humans, we unlearn and relearn and forget a lot of stuff, and it's really up to us to parse through all of that and realize like what really is important in our growth, in our success, in our lives. And you asked me earlier, like, what it takes to be a coach and all that. That's one of the things, because coaching isn't easy. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy field to be in, especially now, because a lot of people has given it a bad rap because everyone's popping up and saying they're a coach. Well, it doesn't work like that, right? And if you really want to be great at anything, you're going to eat, sleep, and breathe that. Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours. Well, 10,000 hours is fantastic, but if you really want to be the top, you're going to put a lot more into that, and it's not going to feel like work. And that's how I feel about coaching and teaching and training and all these things. And I learned that through what we were just talking about, like through school, like realizing that school, although it wasn't for me, it served a purpose. Like you can look at me and be like, okay, you went and you got your 2 master's degrees. Why? But I did that. It was a personal thing for me.
mm,
And what I learned from it was a lot greater than the the dollar value that school cost for me. And it also showed those that I just mentioned before, my sisters and my nieces, my nephews, and other people who've been watching me, what's possible no matter where you come from and no matter what adversity you face. So it was just personal. I had a vendetta against the systems, so to speak, that say like, hey, black men, statistics show that we haven't been educating ourselves and doing as much, even as the black woman, right? Well, I aim to destroy all those types of statistics. I aim to say, like, you can say what you want about us, but we are here and we are in full force, because there's a job to do, and that job is that generational wealth. That job is to level playing fields. That job is to let people know that intellect and diverse thinking is the only way that this planet will survive, let alone society.
yeah, the planet and society. I hear that. We talked a little bit earlier about vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about failure. What has been your biggest failure, and how did you navigate it?
Man, my biggest failure, I've had a lot of failures. My biggest failure, I would have to think about that one. My biggest failure. Hmm. My biggest failure may be tied to my relationship with money early on,
Mm,
right? I think that was my biggest failure. I think when I first started making at least money you could actually live on,
mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing what I should have done with that money. And I look at it now, and if I put that up and I invested it like I should have, I would be in a lot better position when it comes to this generating generational wealth thing. And I think that that's one of my biggest failures, is like just blowing money and not even know I'm blowing it. But that's it.
I don't know. I have different feelings about that.
Yeah.
Because I think that if you sound, you've been talked about a lot about your background and how you grew up, but
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that it was not most comfortable for most people's
Right.
perspective, and so I feel like you don't really even get an education around a relationship with money, or that there is a relationship with money.
You
So I
don't.
feel like when you start to make money, I think that one of the challenges, I feel like once you get to a certain level where you are building generational wealth, is if you still got the same relationship with money where you are uncomfortable spending money, you're not going to be comfortable in making big investments. And so
Right.
you
Right.
may see it as blowing money, but for me, I see it as being comfortable with the fact that money flows.
Yep. Absolutely. And I love that. And yeah.
So I feel like that's
And
a developmental stage and getting to where you are. I don't, and my
it
mom
is.
always says you cannot skip steps. And so that's one of the things one of my mentors has been at me about. She was like, "You hold money too tight." She was like, "I'm gonna need you to spend it."
Right,
And I
right,
was
and
like, okay,
right.
let's do that. And I mean, it has actually been transformative for me. So as much as I might go, "Ooh, I blew money," it's like, no, what you've done is developed a different relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so then you can give your money a job.
That's it. Have the money and absolutely. And if I never did that, I wouldn't understand the concept that, real high achievers, successful people, they work for time, not for money. Right. And that's what I learned from that. So we talk about how success and failure go hand to hand. That's really what I learned from that failure, spending that money and looking back like, where did where did that money I made go? Like what happened? But I had to go through that in order, like you said, to really learn and change the relationship with it. And now it's a lot easier, right?
Mhm.
And I don't mind spending money, but I spend it smartly for the most part, right? I'm not
Yeah.
blowing it on the things I used to blow it on.
No, but I think that like even I won't say like blowing money. Like obviously, if you've got other obligations or other goals, it's not a good
Mm-hmm.
idea. But the same way you said you value rest, like being able to have access to funds to have a different kind of rest is a factor.
Absolutely.
Scrolling Instagram earlier, I came across the book that is really focused on self care. On like I think it's called Hood Wellness or something like that. It's like a book that's coming out. I was like, where can I pre-order this? They're like, it's not going to be on pre-order until 2024. I was like, I'm gonna mark my calendar.
2024.
It's coming out in 2024. It's available for pre-order this coming summer. I was like, I'm marking my calendar for this book because I think that it's a critical sort of piece to the puzzle. We always talk about people in wellness, but we talk about wellness from the standpoint of people that can spend $20
Mm-hmm.
on some candle, at Bed Bath and Beyond and enjoy it. A lot of people live off less than 30K a year, and that goes nowhere in most
Absolutely.
places in America. And so you're telling
Absolutely.
somebody to practice self-care with resources they don't have access to.
Well, I would say self care is, and I talked with my good friend Janelle a while back on this. She has a podcast, and she really brought it to mind that self care shouldn't cost anything. Like a lot of that stuff we're talking about is like maintenance stuff, and it's
Mhm.
so self care really like going out and taking a walk. That's self care to me.
Mhm.
Listening to my favorite songs or whatever. Like you just gotta find what self care is to you because it shouldn't cost, right? It
Right.
shouldn't
And,
cost
and
you a
that's what
lot
I
of
appreciate
money.
about the book because I feel
Yeah,
like we've commercialized it so much that self care is, spa days with your girlfriends,
right,
and like,
right,
retail therapy and all this stuff. And it's like you said, it shouldn't cost.
right.
And I think the other challenge for that, though, I think that I'm hoping this book crosses the intersection on is like that all of our time is not, we don't have equal free time.
Mm-hmm.
Like
For
my
sure.
mother, growing up, she raised us. She might have slept 4 hours a night sometimes because she
Mm-hmm.
had 2 and 3 jobs. So, how do you sell the idea of self care to somebody that don't really have a lot of time for themselves at all? Like, so that's
Absolutely.
why I'm excited about this book. But as far as grass, we're back and forth books and all kind. But that's what got me excited about it. I was like, this is a book for people who I feel like are forgotten and ignored. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see it and share it and see how that goes. But God, total
Absolutely.
sidebar. Um,
No, it's it's all good.
I feel like I should just make a list of things I'm excited about and my favorite stuff and share it with people.
Hey, that's actually a good. That's a good one.
Like the
It's
things
a
I'm
good
excited.
newsletter.
Look, it'll probably be quarterly.
That's
Just
good too.
here's some things.
I would
Um,
sign up. I would subscribe.
Noted. I might just make a little list. I'm like, that's an easy landing page. Want to know
Yeah.
what I'm into? I'm not emailing you more than quarterly because I don't have that much to say. But here you go. Like things I'm excited about, things you should know about, and just be
Right.
like, yeah, because I do have like a few random favorite things.
Hey, 10 Ferris game became popular off of what is it, 5 Bullet Friday or something like that.
Huh. Okay.
James Clear has a 3-2-1. All right. So it's a popular thing. People subscribe to things like that. So try it out.
That's worth the spitball. I'll see how it goes.
I love it.
Oh. Is there anything we haven't talked about since I'm so sidetracked and giggly?
No, it's all good. I love it. I love the energy. That's good. I feel like we've covered a lot for people to digest. I mean, when it comes to like, you know, self-care, mindset, wellness, and yeah, I would love for people to just, once they hear this, just provide some insight. Like, what do they want to hear more about? What questions could be answered? I think that's really where this platform is going to excel, because we individuals like yourself who are really have that energy and have that disposition is needed, right? You are needed. So I would love for the listeners to, after they listen, comment and just, whatever platform they're listening on, and hit you up on whatever platform you want them to hit.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. When I publish this and say, hey, look, hit me up, uniquewalcott.com. Obviously, there's a contact us page. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I live. Just plenty of ways. And so I think I will share that. And I've got previous episodes. I feel like one of the shortcomings of what I've done the last year and a half or so has been that I've not effectively promoted the show. I've been like in creator mode, like quite literally.
I get it.
And so like head down, like do. And I was like, now you have like 40, 50 episodes, and yeah.
Yeah, now you got it. Yeah. So that's even better though, because you can relaunch with like a couple pilot episodes and let people know, like 3 of them, and let people know that you got them. And then they're gonna see all the rest of them. They're like, oh shoot.
Yeah, that's true.
Like splice up a couple episodes,
Yeah, and I've got a handful of those in the bank. I found a young entrepreneur who was interested in doing some video editing work, and I was like, you can do this for me, and like you said, delegate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was like, I can do this, but the time it takes and the focus it takes away from the other things I'm doing, like this is like fun for me. I was like, that's not my favorite part. So you got it. You like doing this? Great.
Great. Exactly. That's why, I'm actually going to reach out to a couple of the schools to find some people to intern with me. So like a videographer, someone to edit like podcasts, because I think I told you I'm starting my own podcast next year.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep. So just looking for people, who would do it just for a letter of recommendation or whatever. Maybe toss them a couple of dollars, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer in like, if I can pay you, great. That's the other reason I was like, I think sponsorship is something I want to really consider. I mean, because all of the tools and stuff that I'm using to do this, I've been paying out of my pocket.
Right.
So,
I hope you got a business account that you're paying out of.
Look, I literally did not. My girlfriend has been texting me for the last 2 weeks and said, "Ma'am." So that is like before the clock strikes 23. I will further investigate that scenario and see if that's the appropriate move.
It's going to be, because your laptop, your phone, everything is going to be a tax deduction.
That's a good point. And one of the biggest challenges for me is I was looking for a CPA, so I finally found a hairdresser. And the hairdresser had a CPA. She was like, "Girl, I love Ginger." So here she goes. So I got to call Ginger.
I love it.
And we'll see what's next. But like, I mean, I think it's funny you talked about self-care and a bit about prayer earlier, and how we should big up ourselves. And it was so funny because last time, before I found my hairdresser, God's like, you pray for everybody else all the time. Why don't you pray for yourself like you pray for everybody else? And that's when things started moving.
Absolutely. That's it.
It's been interesting to see unfold, but it sounds like I got work to do. I keep getting the same reminder from too many directions.
Well, yeah, that's it. Hey,
loud
knocking on the door. Yeah, like, hey, how many times I got to tell you this? All right.
Literally. So, and that's not a hard thing to do. I have registered businesses before and like shut them down because I didn't really, get things moving the way I should have. But as you said, failure breeds success.
Absolutely.
So run it up again and see what happens.
Run it up. Let's go. Use all those contacts you making.
True. All right. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for talking about your business coaching process, just like books and how to like manage feelings and really just coming into a place of wholeness and asking for help. Like, I really hope people watch this and discover like that success is not just about hustle culture and eat, sleep, and breathe work. Like, really, when I started career conversations, like it was like, okay, how do I create space where people can see themselves? Like, I know a lot of us don't grow up with representation, with mentors and things of that nature to help us. So I was like, if I can find a coalition of the willing, a couple times a month I sit down with folks and I'm like, look, I'm literally handing you contacts. Like, I would love at some point, this is kind of out of the box, to be able to take all my career conversations guests and get them in one room at a conference. That would be so lit to me.
That would be dope, and you can. You can, and now you will.
And now I will. Sweet. All right.
Sounds
Well,
like a summit to me.
sounds like a summit.
Yeah.
Okay. I know a lady who is all about teaching people how to play in those things too. So I guess I got no excuse.
There you go. Let's make it happen.
All right,
I'll be
everybody,
there.
thank you so much for watching Career Conversations. I have Jevon Wooden of Live Not Loathe. He is a business coach. He is an author. He can teach you how to be your best self so that you can create a life where you don't need a vacation.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, love y'all. Peace.
Peace.